Hey y'all, welcome back. Here we have a 06 Suzuki Ozark 250, similar to that machine, just the utility version. That's a 05, I think. I just fixed the rear end on. Well, same deal here. Ooh, try to find the spot here. See the driveline skip there? I felt it there. The tires turn. Or the tires don't turn, but the driveline does when it's in gear. So I'm gonna have to rip it apart. I just brought it by today, so I'm taking the brakes off here, spin the wing nut deals off, get the little pieces out and the springs. We'll get that bolt off, then we'll take the 8 bolts holding the rear end on, and that thing will just fall off there. So pretty easy. Don't forget this little line here, but pretty easy. And then we'll have to split it open here and see what's going on, probably drain the oil. But my guess is same deal as the other one. The splines in the axle and the big ring gear are shot. So not a big surprise because I just did it to that one, and most likely the same outcome. So once I get the rear end on the bench here, we'll be back. So all right, so we got the rear end out. So you can see here, I got this hub off. I'm gonna pull this off because I guarantee you what's wrong. You can see I can spin that and nothing turns. So I guarantee it's the splines on this and the gear. So I got all the bolts out of here. I'm gonna try to pop that apart without damaging this here. Really careful. You can see some really nasty looking, rusty looking oil is in there. You can see here, these bearings go out and then it smokes the splines on these shafts. So same thing as that one, just happened to this one here. So let me get this apart and then we'll be right back. The fun part that worries me is on my other one, you take this here, the brake drum on there is really expensive, like $200. So we'll hope it comes off if we have to take it off, but we'll probably have to take it all apart and check all the bearings and seals throughout the whole thing to do it right. So here we go. All right, yeah, you can tell, you look at that nasty looking rust water. There's the problem. Splines on that shaft. Too slippery, but pop that guy off. But that's it right there. Splines are smoked. Okay, I'll have to see if I can get the whole rest of it apart. So to do it right, what you need is a new axle, new gear probably. You have to get it apart and look at the splines, but I'm sure they're toast, just like my other one was. And probably replace all the bearings. It doesn't feel that bad. This outside bearing is shot. The inside one feels good though, but that's what happens, right? So you can see they start working like that and stressing, and then it smokes some splines out of there. So, okay, well, we'll keep whittling away on her. All right, I got a little excited and kind of ripped it all apart without taking video of the process, but not too big of a deal. I mean, you guys can figure out how it works. So this end here goes to, here's the brake end and how the brakes and stuff were on this end. Fortunately, the brake drum here fits in here, came off very easily. There's the brake drum cover. Here's the brakes. There's a seal that goes on here and here. This bearing feels kind of notchy, so we're going to replace that. There's a snap ring here that holds that in. This tube here, you can see got kind of junky inside. So we're going to clean that up really good. On this one, we're going to do like my other one, where we welded the gear onto these splines. You can see these things, obviously the splines only ride in 2 spots. It's kind of a crappy design, really. I don't know why they do that, but just strips them out. Nothing holds really that gear, locks it onto that other than it kind of fits in the splines. And you know, when you got a bearing that goes out, you can see there wasn't enough good oil in here and it smoked it. So this bearing feels good, but the one on the outside in here that rides on this shaft, actually on this side, but goes bad, and then it puts all the stress on those splines and smokes them. So this one here feels pretty good. I'll clean it all up and fill all the bearings. But this one and this one ride on the gear there. So the bearings all in here are good. So basically this end bearing here went out and put too much stress on those splines, which apparently is common. So I'm gonna order some parts. What I'm gonna do in the meantime is I'm gonna wire brush this super clean and that. And then I'm gonna get JB Weld and I'm gonna fill these up inside with JB Weld and put the whole thing together and let it dry. And that is what is going to hold it in place, because otherwise it's sloppy. And once I get that locked into place, I'm gonna weld around the outside edges and lock that thing in forever. So I'll kind of try to get good videos as I can, but the first thing I'm gonna do is replace the bearings, get everything fresh, put it together, test fit, pull these apart after they're cleaned and JB weld it into place, put everything together, let it sit for a couple days. Then I'm gonna weld. Once that thing is locked on here where it needs to sit, I'm gonna weld it to it so it can't ever spin loose. So it's not gonna be relying on the JB weld. The JB weld is just gonna hold it where it needs to be, and then I'm gonna weld it to make it permanent. So that's what I did to the yellow one there. It's been working great, and we're gonna do it to this one as well. So make sure you stay tuned. If this doesn't work, then we'll buy the parts. This axle I think is 60 to 80 bucks or something like that for the Ozark. That gear I think it's a little under 200 bucks, around 200 bucks just for that gear. So we're gonna try it with all the original parts, which I think is gonna work great, and then we'll be back. So like, comment, subscribe, follow links down below in the description, and we'll catch you when we come back with some bearings and some JB weld. All right, we're back. We got JB weld. We got a bearing kit. I get these on eBay. It's the same one I put in that one. That replaces the bearings and seals in here. And then I got this bearing, which replaces this guy here. This is a pretty wide one because it holds all the weight of that axle, that whole long axle out there. So I'm gonna start punching out seals and bearings, and then we'll be back once I get them installed. So I popped the seal out of here, went in this way, right? It's the seal with all the, that one there, it's got the rings and holes in it. So underneath there is another big clip. So you're gonna need some sort of tool to get these clips out. There is one on this end as well. I already popped that one out. There it is right there. So don't forget to have a tool. Got that bearing punched out, so all I did is just put it on the other side between a couple pieces of wood so that it would catch these bolts, and then just took a punch and a hammer from the other side and just punched it out. So something to note, the seal is in the outside because it went in this way. On the inside it is not. The seal is gone, and I'm pretty sure they take it out so the oil can get from inside to that. But there is a seal on the inside here. I don't know why that is. I'm pretty sure this has never been apart before, but that appears to be how the factory did it, because there's the ball and this is just all dirt and mud and rust, so there's nothing else in there. So let me get this all cleaned up, and then what I'll probably do is I'll pop, just like that one did, pop the inner out, the inner seal, and put it in there accordingly. Since I have all the bearings for everything, I punched out the other one just now. So here's how that one is. No seals on either side, and there is a seal in here yet, so I'm just going to flip that over here and punch it out, and then we're going to reverse the process and start putting it back together. Alright, just punch that guy out. Bunch of dirty mud in between there as well, so here's that seal. So yeah, now we're going to clean it up and start putting it back together. Okay, get it all cleaned up, put the seal in, put this bearing in. Now we're going to do the other side, but first got to pop one side of the seals out. So you just really got to take this, put it in there, and just kind of bend it over. You can do it with a little screwdriver. Those seals just pop in and out, really simple. Little flathead screwdriver will do it. So now that that's out, that will go in this way so that it's open to the oil side, which I don't know if any oil gets in there, but it's how the factory one was. It's how this one's going to be. So what I do is I take a little bit of oil and I just kind of coat it in here, kind of as a keep it from rusting and getting stuff in there in the future, and hopefully it'll help it slide in there. So I'm going to get this here in there, and then after that, this seal will go in this way, and then this side will be done. Alright, got that bearing pushed in pretty easy. I forgot to say it a second ago, I'll clean this clip up. The clip goes in, then that seal goes in. Okay, got that lock ring in, snap ring, now we're putting in the seal. Alright, seal's in, so this side here is done. All new bearings, all new seals. Next, moving on to this baby. All these are great. There's no reason to change those. They feel good, they're smooth. I'm going to change this one because it's easy to get to right now. And I have the kit. So there is a little tiny seal in there. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up, and then we'll pop those out and replace those, as well as this one here. So actually I think I'll punch this one out next. We'll do this one next, and then we'll go on to that guy. Just got that baby punched out. Here's what I did. This on that inner race part, when it's up here, little hammer. I put it on wood so that these 4 bolts are on wood. We're not pushing on anything else on the caliper. You can see it came out very easy. Dirty and yucky. Now, I'll just clean that up a little bit, and then I'll punch the other one in. We'll be right back. And then don't forget your lock ring. New bearing installed. Now we're going to get onto the snap ring. So this worked out pretty good. A 2x4 fits right between the pieces. Holds it up off the ground, then you're not beating on anything bad, right? So snap ring cleaned up, put it in there, we'll be done. Snap ring installed. Done deal. Went in there pretty easy. Now for that baby. So that little needly bearing one here is not coming out quite as easy. You can see it's broke all apart. It's got to go out this way, so you punch on the inner cage, I guess you'd say, and then it comes apart before it moves too much. But on the bottom, there is a tiny little lip. I've beaten most of it off. There's another piece coming off. You can kind of get on that with a flat blade screwdriver and push it a little. So as you can see, it has moved a little bit. I'm hoping it's enough. I can get on the top edge. You can see a little edge in there. So I'm going to keep trying to working it and getting it out. Otherwise, I'm going to have to chisel it out or take it to work and figure something else out, and that's not going to be fun. So the seal's not too much in the way because there's kind of the material of the case is right below it. So it's just kind of a little secondary seal, but I'm going to keep whittling away on it. It's moving, so it's just going to take some fine-tuned tapping, and we'll get there. Success. Working back and forth with the flat blade. Just came out. There we go. So the other one will go back in the other way. So you'll note it's got a little lip on each side, so it doesn't look like there's any special direction that goes in. So I'm going to punch that seal out the other side first, clean this up, and then the seal will go back in this way and the bearing will come in from the other side. Well, trying to put the seal in here. I got a little bit off center and gave it an extra little whack. It's just a tiny little seal. I forgot to put a little oil on that one and it got screwed up. So now I'm stuck. I'm gonna have to order another one of those. I can still put the bearing in, that's not a big deal. Just kind of a piss me off thing because I wanted to get this quad done this weekend, but maybe I'll see if someone locally has one of those just to get this done. But let's put the bearing in from the other side. All right, well, I very carefully tapped that bearing in this side. So I'll order this other one, but I don't need that to do what I got to do. So what I'm going to do now is wire brush and clean this up super good. Wire brush and clean that up super good. Test fit everything, pull it apart, put a bunch of JB Weld in there, put everything 100% back together, and then let it sit for a day or two so that can harden up, and then we'll weld it in final assembly. All right, we've test fitted everything, took it back apart. You can see these smoke splines now that I've got them all cleaned up. For some reason, total design flaw why they don't put splines all the way through this thing, but they only do it in 2 spots. Not very strong. So I'm gonna spooge a whole bunch on there and put this thing together and let it sit for a couple days, and then we'll be back. Got a bunch on the axle, we got it pulled out a little bit. You can see here, because I want to kind of get that on there and make sure there isn't a whole bunch of extra on that side. You can't put a bunch in this because it's got to fit over here, and I think you'll make a mess getting it to that point. So next I'm going to slide the gear on, kind of get it on there. I'm going to get the bottom edge kind of flush on this side because it's kind of where it rides. Clean everything off that side and then put it together. I've got it most of the way on. It really spooges a lot out this side, as you'll see. Don't see much on this side, but I think we're pretty good. I've got it cleaned off pretty well. Yeah, so I'm just gonna wipe it off real good here. I got a whole bunch off already, but I'm gonna clean it off really good, shove it in there, see where everything lies, and then I may try to put some more in there. I don't think I'm gonna have to. It's in there pretty thick, but yeah, I can barely kind of make any slop out of it, but I'm gonna clean it off good because that's where the seals and bearings got to go on and off. You don't want to get any in those bearings, and stick it in there and button it up. Okay, it's in place. I took my finger and I took a bunch more of the stuff and spooged it up in there and then cleaned off this really good so nothing has JB Weld on it. And then I took oil and put oil on the bearing, the seal, and the bearing races here. And now I'm going to put this backside on, tighten it down, make sure, you know, make sure that that thing's all the way in. You could always put the brake and the other stuff on this side to suck it up tight like it should be, but tapping it in there, I know it's in all the way. So we'll be back. Okay, got it bolted together. Got 3 bolts in here, so everything is square. Got, you know, bolts here, everything's bolted. I took a hammer, tapped this in all the way. Everything's where it's got to be. So now we'll just cross our fingers. So you can turn this, and that axle barely turns, but I'll turn it so it's up against some splines-ish. Heavy tap. Gonna leave that until for a couple days, and then we'll come back and see how it works out. And we're back. It's been 2 days. Everything is fully cured. About halfway through the curing process, I turn this a little bit every once in a while, make sure everything's centered. Now we're gonna take it apart and see how it did. There it is, all one piece. Everything is square and perfect. So what we'll do now is I'll carefully weld up around the edges here on both sides, making sure not to make it any higher than where these bearings and seals go on, so everything slides on kosher. And yeah, then we'll put it back together for final assembly, and that'll be all that's to it. So we'll be back once she's welded. I'll probably also chuck it up in a lathe just to double check everything's kosher, but There's no reason it wouldn't be, because everything is new and tight and it can only go one way. Okay, I'm at my work here. Gonna get this thing welded up. I put a few tacks on there. Make sure you wire wheel it really good if you're going this route. You want, you know, to get all that JB weld out of the way. But usually what I'll do is I did 4 tacks on that side, I'll do 4 on this side, and then I'll start burning it in and weld all the way around it. And then we'll come back in that. So like again, I said, I'm gonna try to keep it below this edge, and on this side you want to keep it pretty narrow because a bearing goes on here. So I did bring a plate. I'm gonna test fit it, make sure it goes all the way on. I'll probably have to lathe some off of this side because it's probably, the weld's probably going to be out too far, but I'm gonna try to shoot it back up in there as best I can and not have to do too much to it. Alright, we got that side welded. I sprayed some non-stick coating or stuff on there, some weld stuff. Looks pretty good. Loosen it up here and take it out. This other side didn't come out quite as nice, but I'm pretty sure, actually let me put a little more weld on there. It ain't gonna go anywhere. That is a fact. Everything is good, and that one section there got a little crappy, but yeah, so let that cool and test fit pieces. I don't think I came up above it too far, but I always want to make sure this side slips on, because since it has a bearing here and a bearing goes on here somewhere, so it gets pretty close. So if the piece slips on all the way, it'll be good. But first we gotta let it cool down before we can do that, because when this stuff gets hot like that, you're never gonna get a bearing on it. So we'll come back. All right, make sure when you go to do something like this, you're gonna have to lathe where that weld is on this side, because the bearing in here goes up to almost the end of this guy here. You can see I've got it tight, just a sliver of space between there. There is a spacer that goes in there, so I'm not too worried about that. I can pop this off one-handed. You can see I turned a lot of it off. There's just a smidge in there, so there'll be a bunch of JB weld and other stuff there. This side, nothing really goes on there, so I'm just gonna kind of clean it up to the same diameter of where the seal goes on and then leave it, because nothing touches there. So good, we're almost done here. Okay, this side is pretty good. This gear is so hard, you can tell with a file. I just took a hand file and kind of went around. When you're hitting on this, it's really slippery because it's really hard. The weld is not, so you can feel where the high spots are, kind of file them down until everything feels good. So we got that good. So axle, in my opinion, is done. I'm still waiting for one seal to show up for that one that I screwed up. Should be here today, it says. And then we'll put it together and make sure everything holds oil and everything fits. So we'll be back with that. All right, putting her back together. So I got this case. I did get the new gasket, or sorry, the new seal. Here's the bad one. The new one went in easy once I oiled up everything around. I'm getting that mated up, and we'll get this side mated up. And you know, I popped some of these seals out, so don't forget to put them back in before you put it together. Got this all cleaned up inside in the parts washer. Test fit, everything's looking good. Don't forget your little shims. Got the other one here, so put her back together one piece at a time. Okay, so we've got this end on. She's got the axle in. It's in there, everything's looking good. Got the shim on. We're gonna put this side on and button it up. And then we'll get the brake parts and the O-ring that goes around the outside back on. This will go on, this will go on, that'll go on, then this and the washer and the nut. All right, so here's what it looks like going back in. So once you get it buttoned up, you know, you got this in, the cover, the hub, all that. Get it back up into place, got the brake lines pushed through. You can do that after. The first thing you got to do when you put it up into place is you got to get the spline shaft started into there and then get it up in there. Get these 4 bolts in, those 4 bolts in, the shock mount in, tighten all that stuff up. Then I put this other end on, So over here we got to put the little breather, goes onto that plate, and we got to put the pieces through here for the brake. Right now I'm just filling it with oil. Just put 80-90 weight in these, just gear oil. It says hypoid 90 or whatever, or hypoid 80, different temperatures, so whatever, 80-90 weight. So we're filling it up. So the bottom plug is still in. We take out this one, it's a sight plug. We're filling it through here. It's supposed to take like 6.4 ounces. And we're pouring away till we see it come out. And there we go, all back together. Just have to adjust the brakes, ride it, hit the foot brake, adjust it, ride it, pull the handbrake, adjust it. So, you know, they're how you like. You just adjust them by cranking these in and out. Other than that, it's done. It's full of oil. Everything's tight. Time to go test it out and probably take it for a rip for a half hour or so. Park it. You notice I left the cover off the bottom here in case something's wrong. That way I can see if something's leaking or whatever. And once I'm fully sure it's done, then I'll put that back on there. I don't have it back on my son's four-wheeler yet either because it has a sporadic leak on that one. And on that one, the case that bolts on the outside had some tabs broke off, and I just JB welded it. So I don't know if it's because it's broke. Being my own, I'm a little less sensitive to things like that. Somebody else's, like this, a friend's, is a different story. So anyways, let's go take it for a rip. Alright, just went for a rip through the fields. Everything seems okay. I even got this thing to do some wheelies, believe it or not. Did a bunch of stops and starts, full throttle, first gear, max torque on that thing. It's going to brake, won't brake on me. Seems pretty solid. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So, like, comment, subscribe. There's links down in the description to the stuff I use. That's what I used. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I answer everything. Thanks for stopping by.